And then the president went, He made an emotional noise and said, "This is it. This is it. I think this is it."
When you get a spontaneous call from the president of Nintendo of America, you don't ask too many questions. You just take the call. That's the advice that was given to designer Chris Maple back in 1998 from a business colleague who warned him the call would be coming later that day. At the time, Maple was no stranger to sudden phone calls from company executives. Maple ran his own design business, Media Design, which specialized in last-minute work for companies in emergency, time-crunch situations whose agencies weren't equipped to handle the speed or size of their request. Though it was rarely, if ever, publicly credited for this type of work, over Media Design's history, the company quietly developed a good reputation with clients throughout its local Seattle area, doing work for Boeing, the Seattle Mariners, Holland America Line Cruises, and others. Maple had been in the business for several years when then Nintendo of America president Minoru Arakawa's secretary phoned him and asked him to come visit the office in Redmond. He was told over the phone that the company wanted him to work on a new game, but that was it. Maple, intrigued, accepted the invitation, not knowing he was about to become an instrumental part of one of the biggest cultural phenomenons in the world, Pokémon.
I showed up one afternoon, and it was kind of a campus setting kind of thing. I walked in the doors. It was 2 floors, very spread out. I sat in the lobby on some blue velvet cushy chairs in this granite obelisk and ephesus in the middle of this little horseshoe of chairs. And I was mentioning there was this crystal horse sitting on top of it. And so I just stared at it. It had a few LEDs, I think. Maybe not LEDs because they didn't invent them then. But I was shooting through it, and I was just kind of focusing on that, thinking, this is a very interesting place. This is different.
Eventually, Maple was taken upstairs into a meeting room where a few individuals were sitting, waiting for something. But when Arakawa entered, Maple observed that he was a very magnetic personality and could tell why he was in the seat.
So he proceeded by saying, this is a very important job. It has a lot to do with our fiscal stability. We have apparently run out of time, and it is extremely, extremely important for what we're going to be doing next in the company. It is a game that I saw in Japan on a recent visit and picked up the rights for. It's called Pocket Monster. I said, Pocket Monster? He says, yes, but we'll be calling it Pokémon.
Maple was being asked to make a new logo for Pokémon, which at the time existed only in Japan as Pocket Monsters Red and Pocket Monsters Green. Nintendo wanted to release the game in the West with a blue version and, later, a Yellow Pikachu Edition. But the company wanted a new logo to fit the rebrand from Pocket Monsters to Pokémon and was struggling to find someone to nail the look. Maple wasn't given any instructions on what Nintendo was looking for, though. Just one parameter. He had just 1 month to make it. Normally, Maple tells us, a logo like this would take something like 6 months, with lots of back and forth between the designer and the client, drafts and redrafts. Nintendo's 1 month deadline wasn't arbitrary, though. The new logo had to be ready for the big unveiling of Pokémon Red and Blue that would take place at E3 1998. But Maple was used to cramming things like this into short spans of time, so he got to work. He drew numerous variations of a Pokémon logo by hand on a light table, trying different letter shapes until he was happy with something. When he liked a logo, he'd set it aside and try again to make something different, ultimately creating several variations to present to Nintendo so they could pick which they liked best. Still, there wasn't much to go on. Maple wasn't given copies of the games to play or even a lot of information on what Pokémon was.
One of the lemon execs came down with a cardboard box and dumped all these toys in front of me, and little things. She goes, these are from Japan. Mr. Kyle brought these back for you to see. And I looked at it and I went, oh. She goes, I hope this is helpful. And I went, no, but it's okay. It'll all be fine.
Nintendo did explain the game a little bit, and he saw some illustrations of both existing and in-progress monsters, as well as an early version of a Nintendo Power magazine that discussed the game. Maple was also instructed that the logo would need to be suitable for use on a tiny pixelated Game Boy screen and would have to work in both color and black and white. After coming up with several variations, Maple took his suggestions back to Nintendo to present them. He opened by presenting a few versions he wasn't as excited about, and says his audience was relatively unresponsive. But then he showed his favorite. The room was quiet. Maple stayed quiet too.
And that one got halfway down, and Don Adams went, "Oh my God," and shut it over again, looked at it, and then the president went, He made an emotional noise, and then said, "This is it. This is it. I think this is it." They all nodded, and President Stubbs said, "Produce it." So we produced it, and was born the Pokemon in that meeting.
And so the Pokémon logo was born. We asked Maple why he liked the final version best and why he thinks Nintendo accepted it, but he can't fully explain it.
It's a feeling of, like, if I was to put 3 colors in front of you, Rebecca, and I said, "Pick your favorite," you'd pick your favorite, and you'd know it was your favorite. It's that kind of feeling, and you wouldn't question it. And if I had tried to talk to you about it, you wouldn't be able to explain it. You'd just say, "It's my favorite color. What are you talking about?" So it's that kind of thing, to say the truth. But it takes a lot. I mean, it's a lot of discipline. And it's a lot of hard work that goes into getting that kind of consciousness that you can turn on and turn off like a faucet.
Maple has a similar explanation for why the logo ended up yellow and blue. He tried a bunch of different color schemes. Maple admits it's possible he was subconsciously thinking about the color-themed naming of the 2 new games being released in the West, blue and yellow. While Pokémon originally released in Japan in red and green versions, only red was brought to global release alongside a slightly different blue version. Yellow, focused on Pikachu, came the following year. Maple was told about both blue and yellow in his work on the logo, but whether that was part of it or not, he says that the final version just seemed right to him. Once the logo was finalized, Maple was largely removed from the rest of the process as Nintendo got to work marketing and eventually releasing the games. He didn't think too much of it until one day, a few months later, he took his son to Toys R Us.
So I walk in the store, I'm greeted by this cardboard arch full of monitors blasting Fox Kids and Pokemon everywhere, Pokemon explosion, and just going, what the heck?
This wasn't Maple's final interaction with Nintendo, though, or even with the Pokémon logo. After E3, Maple recalls Arakawa asked him to alter the logo slightly. He doesn't remember receiving any specific instructions on what exactly Arakawa wanted altered, though he says that clients telling him to just change it a little without extra instruction is fairly common in his field. So Maple went back to the drawing board, literally, and made some minor adjustments to the interior of the P and the E, resulting in the version of the logo we now know today. Later, Maple was called back to do some other design work, and remembers assisting with design projects for some other projects that might sound familiar to Nintendo fans.
We decided we could use you on this other game called Yoshi, and there's Mr. Smekas, and then there's this Ken Griffey game, and then it's Lucas for a Star Wars thing, and we need the N64 box redesigned, and the president wants to, start messing around like Apple did with its computers, making them clear in different colors. And the first one they did was, they wanted me to do a logo for it, and it was called Comic Purple.
He did eventually play the Pokémon games, just a little bit, but didn't get too far. Maple was a busy man. He does remember his son collecting the trading cards when they came out, until they were banned at his school. Maple's work with Nintendo eventually ran its course, as the company began hiring more and more in-house artists and designers. That was fine with him, though. He had plenty of other work lined up. For years, Maple never spoke of his work on the Pokémon logo publicly. It wasn't listed on his website, nor was he credited anywhere as the designer. He says that at the time, he wasn't allowed to talk about it, and it's fairly normal in his industry not to credit individual logo designers. But now, Maple's started talking about it. He's put the logo up on his website, alongside some newly designed t-shirt mock-ups and other images to showcase the massive project he took on all those years ago. Why now, though? Maple says a lot of it stemmed from conversations with his son, who urged him to come forward about his role and take credit where it was due. We asked Maple if there's anything he would do differently if he had the opportunity to do the logo now. He says he'd probably revert it back to the original logo that was accepted in 1998, before Arakawa had him adjust it slightly.
Quite frankly, Rebecca, to be totally honest with you, I would probably go back to the first version before Arakawa had me change it. it was really done, and it was done timelessly. There's nothing to change in it. I wouldn't do anything else with that. If Nintendo decides to embellish it with a 30th anniversary adaptation to the logo, I would like to have the opportunity to do that. I think it would be good PR for them to actually hire the guy that did it in the first place to adapt it to the 30th mark. That would be super for them, and be a hell of a lot of fun for me to do that for them. And yeah, that'd be a big wish, but we'll see. See what life has in store.
Though Maple's work with Pokémon only spanned a few months and only one image, that effort has since been replicated across everything Pokémon. Aside from perhaps Pikachu, the Pokémon logo is the most well-known and iconic symbol of the global phenomenon that's only grown in popularity in the years since Maple unwittingly stumbled into the process of its creation. So then, does he feel that he had a hand in Pokémon's ultimate success?
Oh, well, logos, I could say yes to that. Okay, measure it. I can't. It's only measurable in a person's heart. So that answer is really only tellable by all the fans. But I will say this, in a successful logo is an embodiment of the architecture, the product, the style, and the lifestyle that it could become. I always tell the client, I say, don't try to put eyes, ears, nose, and legs on this like a cootie bug. This is something you put out into the public, and they will tell you what it really is and what it means. The responsibility for ownership is immense. The fact that I am going to draw a picture and you're going to tattoo it onto your body, and it's going to be there till you die, that's a huge responsibility. And that's how it felt. So I know that as watching my children react to it, I knew that they were the first entry point for this product hitting the market. So watching them react and what it meant to them, and then seeing them get older and living, the memories that you have when we get into, your pre-teens and all that, you carry these things with you. You're an embodiment of all those things. So that's a responsibility.
If you like this video and want to learn more about Nintendo's history, why not check out our documentary about the lie that helped build Nintendo? And for everything else Nintendo and Pokémon, make sure to stick with IGN.